Tonight, we dig deep into the analysis of President Bola Tinubu's government promises and the performance over the last 1 year. We look into the figures of what was promised and those that have been performed. And the leader of Analysts, Indigo, and Mr. Nnamdi Kanu have distanced themselves from the killings of soldiers in the southeast region. It's now the leaders of the region and the group are asking for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye here in Abuja. Let's begin by letting you know what was said today by the president of the Analysts, Indigo, Elder Emmanuel Nwanyawo, who has distanced himself and the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, from the killing of soldiers in some parts of the southeast region. He described the incident as saddening, stating that Kanu was not behind the order for the sit at home. So Nwanyawo appealed to President Bola Tinubu to use his political power to free Nnamdi Kanu from custody. Take a listen to him.
We are not in support. We have a group called IPOB. I call it IPOB. This group claims a lot of things, but Nnamdi Kanu has dissociated himself. Even recently, there was a wild accusation against me as a leader of Igbos. IPOB is the only group that wrote against me. Nnamdi Kanu is not with them. And you see, we have got in the East today people telling people not to go to work on Monday. There is not one today. People should not go to school. Even I hear that soldiers have been killed. The truth about it, I discussed with Nnamdi Kanu. He is very sad and very bitter about it. He doesn't deserve the type of punishment he's being given.
Or then that's Emmanuel Nwanyawo, the president of our Analysts, Indigo. Well, tonight, we'll be digging very deep. You ask me how deep? Yeah, as deep as over a year ago, February 2023, when the campaigns was very much intense and it got to a peak where we all went to the polls and Nigerians went to the election. Of course, at the end of the day, candidate Bola Tinubu was elected as Nigeria's president, of course, in the 7th round of election, leading to 25 years of unfettered democracy since the military handed over power to a democratically elected president in 1999. 7 consecutive election cycle in Nigeria, leading to the election of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. An election that was keenly contested, and at the end of the day, not only on the political field and the polling unit, but was contested also in the courtroom. And those who were aggrieved went up to Supreme Court to challenge the victory of Bola Tinubu. But Bola Tinubu has been president for a year now. It's a year fully that the president moved into the Aso Rock Villa. But then you ask yourself, what are the promises? The renewed hope agenda of the president, those were the promises he made. He said some specific things. But look, how do you mark someone who does not have a marking scheme? I'll tell you, he does have a marking scheme. President Bola Tinubu gave the world his marking scheme. He said he asked for the job. He told us what he wants to do. Those are his marking scheme. And we're going to judge him by those marking schemes today. Tonight also, we analyze for you. My guess, they have their top performing ministers and they have their bottom performing ministers. All of those we are going to bring to you tonight and analyzing all of this issue for you as a citizen to take action. So sit tight, everyone, because after the political roundup, I'll get to introduce my guest. I will dig up first, deep into the matter.
President Bola Tinubu says his administration is investing in essential services such as water supply, electricity, and road network to lay the groundwork for economic growth and prosperity in the country. The president was speaking during the commissioning ceremony of the Wuse-Wuye interchange in Abuja. He said every developmental project embarked on by his administration has the comfort of the people as a central focus.
We are investing in essential services such as water supply, electricity, and road network.
The Supreme Court of Nigeria has ordered the 36 state governors to file their respective defense to a suit instituted against them by the federal government. The federal government is seeking for full autonomy for the 774 local government areas in the country. The court also ordered the Attorney General of the Federation, AGF, Lateef Fagbemi, to file his reply within 2 days after receipt of their defense. Meanwhile, the Federal High Court in Abuja has adjourned to the 13th of June 2024 to hear the suit filed by the North Central Forum of the All Progressives Congress seeking the removal of Abdullahi Ganduje as chairman of the party for allegedly holding the position unlawfully. The trial judge, Justice Enyang Eko, adjourned the matter on grounds that processes have not been regularized in the matter. A High Court sitting in Port Harcourt has issued an order of interlocutory injunction restraining the 27-member Martin Amawule-led River State House of Assembly from parading themselves as lawmakers. The order was issued by Justice Charles Wali of the River State High Court, Port Harcourt Division. The suit, which had the Victor Okojumbo and 2 other lawmakers loyal to Governor Siminalayi Fubara as plaintiffs, it also had Martin Amawule and 24 other members who had defected to the APC listed as defendants, also listed as Governor Fubara, the Attorney General of the state, and the Chief Judge of the state. The chairman of the Yobe State Independent Electoral Commission, Mr. Maman Mohammed, has described security as crucial to the success of the June 8, 2024 local government election in the state. Speaking at a security stakeholders meeting in Damaturu, Mr. Mohammed says security report is crucial in election planning, just as he promised that voters will be given paramount consideration during coming local government election. And to Cross River State, where members of the State House of Assembly have passed a vote of confidence on the Speaker, Honorable Elvat Ayambem. The motion was moved during the plenary session by the member representing Yakor 1 State Constituency, Honorable Siwe Omini, and seconded by the member representing Etung State Constituency, Honorable Kingsley Ntu Nsong. The lawmakers say the House is committed to serving the interests of the state despite the recent legislative disruption and promise to remain dedicated to working for the betterment of the state.
All right, then, there you have it, and you're up to date with your political roundup stories. Can we get started, everyone? Are you ready? Because, look, tonight, we're going to break it all down for you. What did President Tinubu promise? I'm going to give you all of those things that he said he would do, specific things. They're not mirage, specific. Then we'll now take it side by side with what we have today and what he has been able to deliver. Let me remind you, on the 29th of May, 2023, some of the things that the president has said. Well, I'll take security first. Let me remind you of what he said. Well, some of you will say you want to hear him again on the issue of subsidy. Well, you remember. But let me take on the issue of security first and foremost, because that is very crucial. What did the president say at his inauguration about security? Take a listen to him.
Security shall be top priority of our administration, because neither prosperity nor justice can prevail amid insecurity and violence. To effectively tackle this, we shall reform both our security doctrine and its architecture. We shall invest more in our security personnel, and it means more than an increase in number. We shall provide better training, equipment, pay, and power.
All right, that's the president. Then 1 year ago, talking about security and the things that he wants to do. All right, he also talked about taxation. And those of you who are talking about taxes and levies, this was what the president, those who they prepared your minds on the plans of this government. Let me remind you of what was said. This is about the president talking with us. Let's get to the conversation, everyone. Tonight, I have three wise men that will be analyzing for us tonight. One of them is an organization that does polling. Have they gone to town to do that? But, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a year since President Bola Tinubu was sworn as Nigeria's president. In his 80-page renewed hope policy document released in the build-up to the 2023 general election, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu listed some action plans. Top on his priority lists were national security, the economy, agriculture, power, oil and gas, transportation, and education. President Tinubu said his objective was to foster a new society based on sheer prosperity, tolerance, compassion, and the unwavering commitment to handling each citizen with equal respect and due regard. Let me remind you, refresh you, what was said in those 80 pages that was released, the document that was released. I'll take you through quickly of some of those things that were said. First, on the issue of security, we know that the president was one of those who is saying during the campaign that he wants more boots on the ground. He wants more boots on the ground. He wants creation of anti-terrorist battalions. He wants to get more people to get into the field, upgrade tactical communications and logistics, upgrade weapon system, improve local arms production, salaries and general welfare of security services, provide economic and social assistance. These are some of the things that were included in that document on national security. Let's flip the page now. And let's look at, I have about 5 areas that are thematic that were highlighted in those 80-page document. So let's get to it and look at some of these other things that were promised. So part of it was also, of course, reform of the policing system. Of course, on the area of economy, the president has said 10% GDP. That got my attention. A 10% GDP growth based on 2021 World Bank data, promotion of rapid socialized industrialization, reduce youth unemployment by half in 4 years, reform of the current oil-based dollar-denominated budgetary methodology. Let's get this fast so we can get into it as fast as we can. All of this, whatever you may be watching now, try as much as possible to hold on to it so that we can get at all of these issues. Critical economic levers such as housing, agriculture, oil and gas, digital economy, sports and infrastructure. These are the areas that this government said they will focus on. Issues relating to the implementation of a mandatory health insurance scheme to cover at least 40% of the population within 2 years. Support the allocation of about 1% of the pooled health insurance funds to health research. Creation of 1 million several other issues. Institute a pilot student loan regime. This is one of the things that the president said on the issue of human capital development. If we move on now to perhaps the second and to the last ones, so that our viewers can be able to get a sense of what were promised and the things that they said that we do in those campaign manifesto and promises. But let's look at the prices of commodities right now. These are how things are. When this government came into office, these are the prices of commodities, and this is how they look right now. Let me first and foremost introduce my guest on the program to you. Kolawole Johnson is a data and governance expert, and I also have Jide Ojo, a political analyst, and our Professor Bell Ihua, who is the executive director of API Polling Institute. The three of them will be analyzing these issues for us on this program. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure with you. Thank you.
Right. I think I've shown you what the promises look like, but these are the way on and manner things are looking right now in the country. The bag of rice, the price is there the way it is right now. Bag of flour, bag of beans. And if you look at the disparity between what the prices were in May and now, you can see the differences in all of that. Let's look at other variables, that some of the other indices that can allow us to be able to look at what things were and how they are right now in terms of inflation, in terms of foreign exchange, and several other indices within this economy, of course, that give us an understanding of where we are at, where we were, and where we are at this moment. Gentlemen, let me begin with you. In your overall assessment of this government, At least if someone gives you a marking scheme and an exam paper, and how you are going to rate this government based on what is said in the specifics, how do you summarize the performance of this government in 1 year?
That's a very tough one. It will be very impossible to put a mark to it, and I'll explain why it's almost very difficult to do that. First, you understand that the government came at a time when Nigeria was highly indebted, and of course we're looking at how to move out of that, and we had to believe in the capacity of the president based on what he did in Lagos to turn things around for us as a country. And the first thing we saw, the first step, the very big step that was made, was the removal of subsidy, though it's back down to an extent. So we saw that the spiral effect of that, the chain reaction of that, has affected perhaps every single sector. And that is driving the price up. At the same time, if you look at what we were able to save from fuel subsidy alone, then you ask, have we been able to use it properly? So if we have deployed what we took from fuel subsidy removal properly, are we going to be having the data you have here today? I think the answer will be no. Then two, remember that the fuel subsidy tightened the belt for the citizen, but I doubt if it tightened the belt for the government themselves, because the government was looking at freeing up funds so that we can have funds to put into proper governance. And you understand the fact that if you want to have a healthy balance sheet, of course, it is by two things. You increase your income, you reduce your expenditure. The government has been able to increase income by freeing up money from the subsidy removal. But I doubt if the government has been able to reduce its expenditure, which in itself is eating the fund again. Number two, have we been able to reform our governance structure to ensure that we get value for every kobo spent? I think the answer is no. Number three, how about our fiscal discipline as a people, as a government? I think I won't score the government high in that area. To take, for example, the government has not released its fiscal stuff now since August 2023. The budget office is here to release that. Now, how do we then access what the government has earned? The receipt and the payment out. So I think all of this is making it difficult for us to score the government. But if we are going to judge by this data, I think the government has not performed excellently well at all.
Do you agree with Kolawole?
Of course I do. I do. I'm a Nigerian. I live in Nigeria. Incidentally, in my column in the Punch newspaper yesterday, I wrote an article titled President Tinubu's first anniversary of a wobbling presidency. Wobbling presidency in the sense that, let's even take it by the words of the Constitution, Section 14 sub 2B. It says, welfare and security of citizens shall be the primary purpose of government. Do we have security? Do we have welfare? The answer is no. Then when you calibrate it, I did something like this in my research for that yesterday, ahead of yesterday's publication. I look at where we were, in terms of interest rate, in terms of inflation, in terms of headline inflation and food inflation, in terms of Women Development Report, in terms of Women Ministry Index. In fact, we have moved from south to south-south. And it's like, we are just living day by day. Day by day, yes, things were bad, but Mr. President said he could fix it. He said we should not pity him. He said he knows things are bad, but he's giving us a renewed hope. If you go to the streets of Nigeria, across every state, even Lagos, where he was a former governor, if you go on the streets of Lagos and say, judge the president by his performance, don't go to those, GRAs and, elitist area. Just go to Agege, go to Alimosho, go to, areas where the rural, Ajegunle and the rest of them. You will find out that many people are waxing, their own, doing skits and doing album, complaining about the rising cost of living. And, you know, like Johnson said, I knew things were bad. I mean, I'm not ignorant of the fact that Buhari didn't take us much out of poverty in his 8 years. But I had expected, for instance, that there will be prudence in public finance under this administration. I haven't seen that. Look at the 2024 budget. And discountenance whatever Senator Abdul Ningi said about the 2024 budget. Pick budget report, Shewoni Gbede's group, and pick Center for Social Justice report on 2024 budget. These are NGOs that did independent analysis of 2024 budget, and you find no difference. In fact, worse things that we saw under Buhari being in our budget. And it does not show a government that wants to be prudent. Look at the embarrassing UN General Assembly entourage, where we have over 1,411, even though the federal government said, oh, we only paid for 400 people. What did those 400 people or thereabout, what did they go to do in U.S. General Assembly? Look at the trip that those who went to Dubai in December. The same thing. And so you are not prudent in public finance. The president went ahead and subsidized Hajj by 90 billion. Does he need to do that? Hajj, whether only pilgrimage to Mecca or to Medina or to Jerusalem, it's a private thing. And I think it's not a ticket to heaven. The president should not have got involved in using public funds to subsidize only pilgrimage of whatever hue. Then you look at the number of ministers. I was here last year when we were assessing, does it give value for money to have 48 ministers? I don't think so. The size is unwieldy. It's not fit for purpose. We are not seeing the value of having those 48 people.
Interestingly, both of you, I've asked you to submit to me your own assessment, and you've had your own assessment of the ministers. You picked your 10 best performing ministers, and you picked 5 of those whom you think they've not done well in the last. We will get to...
Was there a tally?
There is a point of convergence between both of you.
See, you know,
I will read the result to Nigerians.
See, there's something that is not too good here.
Yeah.
When the president came in, the economic community welcomed him. I mean, so well.
Because they think he's one of them.
Let me remind you, the all-share index point crossed 60,000 points in one single month since 2008. By June 27 or so, it has crossed. I remember that the oil and gas stock increased by over 45% in just 1 month. So the economic community was very hopeful that the president was going to do well. And I think basically 2 things that I think the president got wrong. First is what we've been saying for long, which he has said. The government is bloated. What are we doing with 48 ministry, honestly? Look, I cite one example each time. The Ministry of Sport, Youth and Sport before now was being manned with just one person. Just a single minister. Now you have the Minister of Sport, you have the, I think the Minister of Youth, and the Minister of State for Youth. 3 of them in, a job that was being handled by one individual before now. So you look at all of this and you ask, was the president aware that Nigerians were suffering from the removal of the subsidies when he was actually putting together this large government? Then number 2 is the fact that we have refused to check the government officials. While you tell the people to please tighten their belts, I think the government officials lose their belts to take enough. Take, for example, if the president had done well enough, by prioritizing fiscal discipline, you won't have the National Assembly buying a single vehicle for 160 million naira when the people themselves don't have food to eat.
Gentlemen, there are some things that are important for a lot of our viewers who are those who are familiar with some of the commodities that I've shown earlier. Allowed you to be able to have a mind capture of those in a picture in your mind or on some of those commodities so that you can have a sense of how things were and how things are right now. Although I will argue that the president has said, look, give me some time. I'm going to perform. But just like a football coach will tell you that I need some time to review this team. The president feels that a lot of things have gone wrong, and that he needs to fix things, and it won't take it won't be as fast as Nigerians would think. And he also said that it could be like the pain of childbearing, and things will get better. But let's look at it. We might be in pain, but let's look at the indices and the figures of our pains. Let's begin with some of these indices so that both of you can have a sense of what it means. Let's look at the inflation figures, of course. Could my producer just remove these? We've shown it earlier. And let's look at the other indices, the inflation figures, the exchange rate, and how things were in the past and what they look like right now, so that we can have our viewers have a sense of understanding of how things are. No, I'm not talking about this. Can we just remove it? All right. So I'm talking about now inflation rate, which then 22.41%, and now 33. Okay, so now petrol price, 238 naira per liter. Then it's now 701 naira per liter. So there you have it. So give me a sense, Mr. Ojo and Mr. Johnson. Petrol price, inflation figure, you look at the exchange rates, ballooned, and you look at all of these issues, and you'll be imagining in your mind, in 1 year, they have gone so astronomically.
Yeah, because like where you started from, issue of removal of subsidy, I seated there was one of the few Nigerians who are in support of removal of subsidy.
Got it.
I was supporting the president to remove the subsidy. But mark you, with a caveat, was there sufficient housekeeping homework done before the removal? President Buhari said there is budget for PMS till June 2023. President Tinubu took over on May 29 and he said subsidy is gone. That 1 month that would have made it mid-year, if I were him, I would have used it to do some consultation, including visiting physically the Dangote refinery that was commissioned on May 24, 2023, whether that Dangote refinery was in a position to start producing locally refined petroleum products. I would have gone on a physical inspection of the Port Harcourt refinery that they told us was going to be ready latest by December 2022, but they shifted it to June 2023. And before we know what's happening, they said by December 2023. This is almost June 2024. That Port Harcourt refinery has not produced 1 liter of refined petroleum product. So that caused the dislocation because 2 twin policies that were taken by this administration that got all of those indices to balloon was removal of subsidy and floating of exchange rate of the naira, naira against foreign currencies. And we saw where that has led us to the extent that by February 2024, we are exchanging $1 for as high as 1,900 naira, So it is unprecedented. Nobody thought we would have, even as of today, naira is still exchanged for about 1,000, and a dollar is still being exchanged for about 1,400 naira. So, which is astronomical. And that has affected almost every goods and services because we are still import dependent. And so, as an accountant, a chartered accountant that the president is, I would have expected him to first, even before forming his cabinet, have a kitchen cabinet that will have advised him on proprietary of those twin action of removal. Did you know that William Ruto had to postpone the removal of subsidy in Kenya for like 6 months until when they were ready
All right.
to get things done.
Yeah, I think there's someone who has gone for late lunch in the control room, and the guy is just not really giving me what I want. So let me look at these figures, because it's very important. Worked on some of these figures, which I thought that would be very beneficial for our viewers tonight. Petrol price gone from 238 naira, and it's what it is today. Astronomical. Diesel price is now selling for over 1,400 naira from over 800 naira that it was selling before. You look at the price of the food inflation. When this government got into office, it was 24%, now 40%. You look at inflation rate, 22% when they got into office, now 33%. You take a look at foreign reserve, it was 35 billion, it's depleted, it's now 32 billion. You look at the exchange rate, it was 461 naira to a dollar when this government got into office. It's now 1,479 naira today to a dollar. You look at the public debt, it was then 87 trillion naira, but now 97 trillion naira. Take a look at oil production. Well, it's gone even lower. I mean, a bit higher. It's gone higher. We're producing more. The president said he wants to do almost 2 million barrels per day. It was 1.18 million barrels per day. Well, look, this is what we are at right now, about just 1.28 million. Interest rate, then 18%, is now 26%. That is the interest rate. GDP growth rate was 2.5%, it's now 2.98%. That is what Nigeria looks like today, Johnson.
Sure. Let me build a little bit. We're trying to create a minimalist state where the government will be a lame leviathan. I mean, less involvement in economic lifeline of the state. That is what is responsible for the liberalization policies we've seen. However, we have a system that is suffering from the malady of putting politics over and above every other thing. And you also have a system that is neo-patrimonial in nature, where some lords sit somewhere and put their serfs in office and demand in exchange for the life of the state. I tell you why I said this. One of the two things responsible for this, the exchange rate and the oil and gas, the subsidy removal, right, Sheil? Now, let's take the oil and gas sector. Let's extract that. The president is a minister, isn't he? He is, because he did not appoint a substantive minister. We only have the Minister of State. And the first thing he did when he came, or one of the things they did, was to ensure that Mele Kyari was retain his office. Now, you ask, under what? What did we see that brought the man there? When the man came in 2019 or thereabout, oil production was about 2 million barrels, if I remember, but under him, he dropped to 900,000. Number two, I think he made some commitment then to the former president that he was going to move that oil production to 3 million, but of course, it dropped. Refineries, I think we had two working at 30-40% efficiency. But later, under him, dropped to 0. Number three, even the gas utilization under him dropped. The reserve, oil reserve under him dropped. Are you aware that for a long time we have not explored?
Is that an indictment on the Minister of Petroleum?
It's an indictment on the president for retaining Mele Kyari in office.
But Mele Kyari,
listen, please, Sheil,
is an NMPC.
Remember this, that under this man, we had forward sale of crude. Even if you increase your production now to 1.5 million barrels per day, we are still going to use a part of it to be servicing the money we've collected and we've spent under him. Under him, you had, don't forget, 25-point-something million crude oil swap and over 13 trillion naira subsidy payments under him. Yet, he came back and said Nigeria was still owing NNPC for subsidy. Under him, we were paying for subsidy for as much as 100 million liters per day. How? How?
Let me
yet,
take a moment.
No, yet you retain the same man and you are expecting him to perform magic for you. So I think if the president is not hiding something, that man should not be in office.
Let me take a moment. Let me bring Professor Bell Ihua of the Africa Polling Institute, who joins us virtually from New York. Thank you so much, Prof, for your patience, and appreciate your time and some of the effort you and your colleagues have put into this. Well, of course, we do know that these are the initiatives and these are the efforts of your own, your colleagues that have gone to the field, and you've come out to what you Nigerians have assessed this government on. Can you summarize first and foremost what your findings at API about President Bola Tinubu's government in 1 year has been?
Thank you very much, Sean. I'm pleased to be here, and I think that the summary of Mr. Jide Ojo, my dear friend, and Mr. Johnson has actually provided context to our data, because sometimes people wonder why are we presenting this sort of data, but we provided context. So basically, in terms of the state of affairs of the country, our survey has shown that 84% of Nigerians are sad with respect to how the country is going. Similarly, 81% of Nigerians feel that the country is currently heading in the wrong direction. And when you ask them about their personal economy in the last 1 year, 74% say their personal economy have worsened over the last 1 year. So this gives you a very grim, stark reality of the level of suffering in the country. And when we ask them the question, what is the biggest challenge facing you personally today? The biggest challenge shown is hunger, followed by inability to meet their basic needs, unemployment, heightened insecurity, and electricity. So in that order, Nigerians have said that these are the biggest challenges facing them. And that is why it is not surprising that when we ask them the question, how would you rate President Bola Tinubu's job performance? It was an abysmal rating. I can tell you categorically that 78% of Nigerians rated President Bola Tinubu's first year in office abysmally. And this consists of 49% who rated him very poor and 29% who rated him poor. Similarly, the Senate under Senator Godswill Akpabio has gotten also a very dismal rating. 81% of Nigerians, assess the Senate very, very poorly. Also, 79% assess the House of Reps under Honorable Tajuddin Abbas poorly, as well as 75% who rated the judiciary under CJN Olukayode Ariwoola as poor. So Nigerians are dissatisfied. If there are major things to be taken out of this study, two major points. One is the fact that however policies are put in place or policy reforms or policies are introduced, Nigerians assess the policy of government based on their quality of life. So food on their tables, clothes on their back, roofs over their heads, money in their pockets, and jobs that keep them sustainably engaged. These are the basics, the basic essentials that Nigerians are looking at.
So we look at two things that came out to me in this. At the manner in which I'm not actually bothered about how the Senate, the House of Reps, the judiciary is being rated, because some of these people did not put themselves out to say, I'm going to give this. So I am particularly interested if, at the point we get into the first year of the National Assembly, we will be able to judge the National Assembly, those who have their reservation about the manner in which the National Assembly is running and the manner in which they are comporting themselves in the scheme of governance in Nigeria. But focusing on the president and the executive that told us, we are going to give you so and so and so in specific terms. And if you are to judge it, let's assume that this government has spent 25% of its term in office already. 25% in your continuous assessment, if it's very poor, based on your assessment, It's a very sad tale, isn't it? Then you ask a question, what is the biggest challenge facing you personally today? And from your own report, it shows that more Nigerians are concerned with the issue of hunger. They are very hungry, they say. Inability to meet basic needs, 28% of them said so. Unemployment followed. Heightened insecurity, electricity outages, and blackouts. That's another issue they have. What came out to you from, did anything surprise you from how Nigerians assess the president himself, and the way he's governing, and what is top on the minds of Nigerians?
Thank you, Sean. I mean, we are not new to surveying presidents or polling presidents. We conducted polls under President Jonathan. We conducted surveys under President Buhari. Now we have President Bola Tinubu. Compared to President Buhari's first year in office, he had 64% approval rating. Today, we are having a situation where 78% are saying that President Bola Tinubu has performed poorly. My greatest, I would say, surprise on the field is that we now have a growing mass of aggrieved, disenchanted, angry, and dissatisfied citizens across the country. They are unified. And what is their unifying force? Their unifying force is misery, poverty, and hunger. They have become local advocates and activists within their community. They are mostly employed, or they're mostly unemployed and underemployed. So you find graduates riding cabs or riding tricycles or working in betting shops. I mean, these guys are angry, they are disenchanted, and they are waiting for opportunities to vent their anger against fellow citizens or against state apparatus.
Prof, give me a moment. Sorry, Prof, we're due for a break. And I see something that is very staggering here. The question, how would you describe your personal economic situation over the last year? A lot of the 74% actually said their economic situation, personal economic situation, has gotten worse. 74%. We take a break, everyone. But when we come back, we'll look at those who are supposed to help the president perform. There are those who say the president has not gotten a fantastic cabinet or fantastic team to work with him. My guests tonight, they have their views. They've given us their top 10 performing ministers and their 5 non-performing ministers. We'll be looking at who these people are. We'll put faces to them and their ministry. And you will be getting to know them after this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation now. We get into the home stretch, and my guests tonight, they've been helping us make sense of some of those issues in the first year of Bola Tinubu in office. Now, let's look at the ministers, how they are fared. Well, I asked Mr. Kolawole Johnson and Mr. Jide Ojo to send me their own assessment of the ministers. And let's get at it. They will be explaining to us the choice, although we don't have as much time any longer, but let's look at Kolawole Johnson's top 10 performing ministers in Bola Tinubu's cabinet. Take a look at what he says, his own choice of 10 top performing. All right, this is Johnson Kolawole. Johnson Kolawole believes that Nyesom Wike of the FCT, Olubunmi Ojo of Interior, Festus Keyamo Aviation, Dave Umahi Works, Doris Uzoka Trade and Investment, Atiku Bagudu Budget. That's a different picture.
No, that's a different picture.
Boyega Blue Economy, Mohammed Ali Party of Health, and Dele Alake Solid Mineral and Bosonti Jani Digital Economy. That is the top performing ministers of Johnson Kolawole. What are your reasons?
Now, see, number 1 and 2, I think it will be a tally. Bumitunde Ojo has brought some finesse into governance, no doubt, and I think we all agree with that. 200,000 passport cleared. In how many weeks? Just few weeks. I remember when he made that announcement, I reached out to him. I think I called, and he didn't pick up. Then he called back. That I said, you would likely shoot yourself in the leg. That the time frame is too short. Besides, this has been, a problem, a recurring problem. How are you sure you will solve this? Then he said, I shouldn't worry that he will do that. And I was shocked that he delivered. Now, for Nyesom Wike, I'm sure you're in Abuja. I drove to Karo today. I've been to places today, and I understand the fact that when you're performing, it is It is not hidden to the
Out
eyes.
of all of the projects President Tinubu has been launching, it seems to be the one, the ministry that the president has taken.
See, I'm not a fan of Wike as a person, but for his time in office, give it to him. Of course, during those periods when we were trying to pitch each person for different places, I actually pitched him for the FCT, and these were my reasons. I said the FCT for 8 years, we didn't have project like that, being driven in the state, in the FCT, that I think we would need a person who can drive project, and he has not disappointed.
Okay, let me, because I'm still going, just for a moment, I'm still coming to your top 5, bottom 5. Jide, what are your reasons for your top 5? Okay, you seem to have some of the ministers, you agree and you disagree. Jide Ojo feels Olubunmi Ojo make the cut, Yinsom Wike make the cut, David Umahi, Lateef Fagbemi, Idris Malagi of Information, Doris Udoka made it here. He made it in your own list too. Yusuf Tuga, Foreign Affairs, Uju Kennedy, Onaye of Women Affairs, John Eno, Festus Keyamo of the aviation. Quickly, what informed your choice?
So again, this is putting me on the spot. There wasn't much. There wasn't much reflection on this. Wait. I wish Adisa Bala I wish Adisa Bala was here to give us the KPI and then what she has been able to track in terms of performance. I didn't have the privilege of KPI, but at least myself and Johnson we tally on 5, which is good. Let me speak on John Eno. Under him, we came second in AFCON, and he's doing well, trying to solve problem of our sports infrastructure. Yusuf Tuga has been there, very learned, trying to project us in foreign affairs. Uju Kennedy is not your... Uju Kennedy has brought some dynamism into the Women Affairs Ministry, even though he seems to have issues with some of the women group. But I love the fact that he's doing more of empowerment than workshop and conferences that we are used to. And Idris Malagi, is doing his bit as Minister of Information. He's a service provider. He's working a thin line between being the Minister of Information and then interfacing with special advisor to the president on special advisor to the president on public affairs.
Gentlemen, we are totally out of time, but I will flash your top non-performing ministers. Let me check out Jide Ojo's own. Jide Ojo doesn't think Wale Edwin is performing. He doesn't think Atuku Bagudu of Budget is performing. He doesn't think Mr. Gaydam of Police Affairs is performing. He doesn't think Abbas Lawa of Environment, nor Badru Abubakar of Defense are performing. What about Johnson Kolawole? Let's look at what Johnson Kolawole feels about the non-performing ministers in President Bola Tinubu's cabinet. This for Johnson Kolawole.
On the sport assessment, there was no deep reflection of this. You know that, right? Besides, I stand with agriculture. You asked me last year, which of the ministries should we take very seriously? And I said agriculture because of food security. Now, you've seen what I said then. I said, for me, it was the most important ministry that we should watch out for.
Yeah. Gentlemen, well, that's our bid tonight. Unfortunately, I thought I would be able to go back to, because API also did a polling on the ministers that are performing. Interestingly, some of the ministers both of you picked fell into the poll that API also did. Professor Beluwa, thank you so much indeed. I'm not able to get into that, but we're totally out of time, everyone.
But we should have seen that.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining tonight. That's our show. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing. God bless Nigeria.